The next item is item number 15, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-3775, block 846, lot 71, 105 Fifth Avenue in the Ladies Mile Historic District, a neo-Renaissance style store and loft building designed by Robert Maynicke and built in 1901 and 02. This is an application to alter the facade and install new storefront infill and signage.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rebecca Morado, Preservation Department staff. Subject property is on the east side of the street, on the south side of 18th Street. There's some current photos of the building, historic photo of the building in 1905 and in 1945. The applicant proposes to alter portions of the Maynicke facade and install a storefront infill and signage at the first and second floors at Fifth Avenue and 18th Street facades. At the Fifth Avenue facade, where you can see existing and proposed, the applicant proposes to remove non-historic signage and infill at 2 bays. At the northernmost bay, they propose to install a new storefront infill to match the existing historic infill at the 18th Street facade. And then in the center bay, they propose to install a new retail entrance with illuminated signage above, and to move an existing flagpole from the southernmost bay to the center bay. The applicant also proposes to modify a 2-story historic pilaster to be a full pilaster, which does not match the historic condition of this pilaster. And the applicant proposes to install a new infill at a portion of the southernmost bay to match the existing non-historic infill on this bay. At the 18th Street facade, the applicant proposes to install divided light glazing in the historic storefront infill in all 5 bays. This divided light glazing does not match the historic configuration, which was had no divisions below the transom line. The applicant also proposes to install illuminated prosceniums with illuminated signage at the base in all 5 storefront display windows on the 18th Street facade, and also in the new storefront infill on the Fifth Avenue facade. The applicant proposes to install interior partitions behind 5 openings at the first and second floor of the 18th Street facade, and all of the transoms at 18th Street and Fifth Avenue that will completely box in these window openings. And lastly, the applicant proposes to repurpose an existing illuminated sign found at the corner of the building. And Cass Stapleton of Green Space Park for further proposal.
Thank you, Rebecca. Cass Stapleton of Green Space Park and Partners. As Rebecca took you through, we are proposing work at 105 Fifth Avenue, the Ladies Mile Historic District. 105 Fifth is an 11-story store and loft building constructed in 1902, designed by Robert Maynicke. The proposal that we're going to show you, and I'm here with Craig Trethau from GAP, the project designer. The store will be occupied by Banana Republic, and Craig is the designer of the project. We'll take you through the design elements, but in summary, as Rebecca said, the work here is really intended to restore and reopen the base of this building. The previous tenant, Barnes & Noble, had basically covered all of the windows and built casework and partitions behind all the windows on the inside, so that there was no transparency from the outside in, and when you were in the space, actually, there was no sense of sort of the street out. So in large part, what we're doing is actually we're opening up the space again, and that's happening primarily at the corner where the greatest views are into the space and out of the space. And down 18th Street, as described, there are partitions that are being built behind the windows for display both on the outside, mannequins and merchandising, and then also some display areas on the inside. There's an extensive restorative component to the project, and then there are also modifications at this highly altered building entry on Fifth Avenue. This work that you see in the existing building entry on Fifth that accesses the upper floor dates to the 1960s. I'm not sure if we consider that historical at this point, but it is the third generation of a series of changes that had occurred beginning of the time of construction to probably the 1960s. So again, existing views of the building, and a detailed photograph of the Fifth Avenue side with the existing signage, and I have some other detailed photos to illustrate. This is the earliest photo we found in the building from 1905, showing storefronts around on Fifth Avenue and then around down 18th Street. And you can see in this detailed photo the building entry was in the southernmost bay on Fifth Avenue with projecting columns and a projecting cornice, this sort of elaborate enfragment at the entry. And that has sort of been shaved away and altered between basically probably from the 1920s through the 1960s. This photo from 1935, again, this is an overall view of the building and an overall view of the Fifth Avenue frontage. You can see in this photograph, they had already started sort of carving away at these projecting columns, so that now, in the detailed photo in your packets on sheet A02, you can see that just the capitals remain, and they cut back the projecting columns so that now the piers are flat, or the columns have been flattened to piers, and there are little brackets installed there. There's a flagpole at the second floor in the center bay where we're proposing to move the flagpole to. And then as well in this bay, in the 1905 photo, this was just a storefront window. This has been altered for a storefront entry, which you can see in the 1935 photograph. This transom was inserted into this storefront to match those on 18th Street. We were actually retaining that and picking that up and integrating it into the center bay where the new store entry is. Photographs of the existing conditions on Fifth Avenue, again, sort of an overall view looking north. This is the entry. You can see it here. I'll put this up as well, so you can see sort of how this has changed over time. By 1980, we don't have the 1980 text photo on the board, but by 1980, this entry had been significantly altered again, and I think probably the most prominent and significant change is this projecting cornice here over the entry that has been cut back, so that now you see here, there's a single cornice line here, and then all of this infill dates probably to about the 1960s. So below the second floor windows, these piers are historic, these limestone panels and this polished granite are all new. These piers as well were altered in the 1960s as well. Then you can see the condition of the infill. This is the center bay at Fifth Avenue that went into the store will be the new store entry, but we'll have swing doors instead of revolvers and a transom matching those around the other side of the building on 18th Street. On 18th Street, as I said, one of the goals of the project really was to open up the base of this building. You can see the photos looking down 18th Street. All the windows had been covered with signage, actually, Barnes & Noble signage. But fortunately, the historic grills, the transoms, the cornices, all of those remain. So there had sort of been a quote, this is the first bay here, right after that. It's just all this infill had actually been taken out completely. So the intent really is to open this back up with glazing. Way down 18th Street where the sort of service entry is, the windows will be enclosed from within for display areas. But here at the corner, this whole bay will be restored. We're going to cast off of these bulkhead panels and basically replicate the remaining historic fabric in this storefront. So these corner bays will be open again. This is the existing service bay down at the east end of the 18th Street elevation. And then a view looking back toward Fifth. There's an illuminated sign that shows up in the 1930s photograph. We intend to reuse that and repurpose it for the new tenancy. And then finally, we collected some images in the district, just both addressing signage. This is illuminated signage, sort of the storefront level, sort of similar to what we're proposing. This is at a store entry. These are actually at every bay around these buildings. This is on 16th Street, 17th Street. 17th Street and 20th Street, these are illuminated signs that are in the storefront windows on these corner buildings. And then these photographs here, we looked at sort of the effect of basically carrying forward the changes that have happened at the Fifth Avenue entry and sort of regularizing the arrangement of piers along Fifth Avenue, sort of what we're proposing. You'll see that. And what we saw particularly in these buildings, but this building which is outside of the district, but definitely contemporaneous with all the other buildings in the district, you see this arrangement at the base of the buildings where there are similar piers, where there is no set enframing for a building entry, so that there's a sort of uniformity in some instances, which we're actually moving toward, which really has been the sort of trajectory for the treatment on Fifth Avenue. It is something that you see in buildings of this age in the district. So with that, I'll let Frank take you through the design proposal and the details for the new store.
Thanks, guys.
And Barnes and Noble moved out of it?
Yeah, they've been out for a few months now.
They're selling it.
You know, so much is done online now. I was just having this conversation with somebody outside. It's bookstores. They're bookstores.
Hi, my name is Frank Truntel, EP Design for Gap Inc. When real estate brought me this project, I knew it was us, and it was Banana Republic coming in. The architecture is our brand voice, and that's why we actually wanted to work with Cass, just to have them help us call out the architectural details from the past so that we could restore the building as best we could to what it was. Like Cass said, on Fifth Avenue, basically our lease line starts here and goes over to the point of the building. The condo entrance, we really don't have any jurisdiction over that architecture at all. But what we wanted to do was try to frame up our entry. And since the old building had these pilasters with columns down in front, it would look kind of odd for us to restore that. And what that would be very asymmetrical. So what we proposed was we were going to try to match the column details of the building to frame up our entrance. The other thing that we were doing, like Cass said, was we wanted to restore the storefront system to kind of match that of the past. So the grills, some of them are damaged or missing, we're going to restore those. And then the actual entry, we are restoring to have the actual dressing windows across like it was in the past. And then we're looking at details from the actual building of the past, detail our doors to match the doors of the past. I think that the thing that I really wanted that I really need to do with our leadership team is to drive home and I want to open up the windows into the store. Because typically retail, you have to maximize the square footage and close off those sight lines of the store. And I just felt that the corner of 18th and 5th here was so dominant that I wanted to bring the exterior to the interior. And some of the things, one of the biggest things that I did in this store was on the corner of that building, you kind of see here, we developed this staircase that you'll see through the windows right at the corner. So we opened up all those windows on the 18th Street, the first two bays, and then the bay on 5th to see the staircase as you're coming down 18th. The other three bays were actually closed off today. We're proposing to open those up, and then great display windows there. They're further down the street. They're a lot further from the corner. They're kind of hard to see, but we need to have a visual display. So we're proposing that we make these visual display windows. The other thing that we did too is, when you look at these windows on retail, you see a lot of track lights in the windows, and there's all this noise. And one of the things that we've developed in Banana was we call them prosceniums, but what they do is they hide all the lighting. They're basically a furniture cabinet that sits behind the window that hides all your lighting in it, so you don't see the light source. And they're made out of walnut, and they frame up the entire window, so you just don't see the track lights in the windows. And then the other piece to this that we wanted to do was to restore the old late sign. So we looked at it on it. We introduced Banana Republic to it, and that's the original. And then we actually shipped over the flag, which is part of our lease. The flag we install over our entry, which will be a Banana Republic flag. That's it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, questions here.
Could you just walk around and indicate where all the illuminated signage is
So we have our illuminated sign over our entrance, and then we have the blade sign in the corner.
Right.
And then each of the windows in the prosceniums at the base, it's routed out from the wood that says Banana Republic, and those are in each of the bays. They are.
So that's like 5 of the.
There would be 5 on 18th, and then 1 on 5th.
And the doors on the others.
Correct.
These small signs, or are they on the big?
They're behind the glass. They're part of the proscenium.
Yeah, they're not along the bottom.
Dimension 11 letters, 3 inches, 3.5 inches. But it's, yeah, they're on the bottom, they sit behind the glass. The glass line is here, and they sit back in the cabinet. We use them a lot in Europe, and because of signage restrictions, and they allow them behind the glass. And they're elegant restriction, but they're in the frame.
Okay. All right, we'll go to testimony. We'll come back to you. Thank you. Leo Blackman.
I'm Leo Blackman of the Drive to Protect the Ladies Mile in the neighborhood. To testify about 105 Fifth. We're very pleased to see improvements made to the storefronts of this handsome building, which have long been obscured by a clunky, opaque 1960s remodeling. And thanks for the pure replacement on Fifth Avenue, which we hadn't noticed until now. If only the owners of the building would take advantage of this opportunity to repair the obscured southernmost bay on Fifth, which provides entry to the building and is particularly ugly. We do have a few minor concerns about this proposal. First is the detailing of the show windows on the side elevation. At present, the transom is divided into 3 equal parts with display glazing below, which is not original, has a wider midsection and 2 narrower side lights. This seems more subtle and appealing than the applicant's design, which seems to create 3 identical divisions below for a gridded effect. It's also worth scrutinizing the old photos, which indicate a single huge pane of glass below, which certainly seems technically possible now. Second is the matter of signage. I was glad to hear the description of the proscenium detail, which seemed like a light box, a sort of translucent light box, or we misread that as such when we first looked at the drawings. But there's still a lot of signage, which is perhaps a little bit confusing. I personally find the reuse of the existing book sign on the corner to be charming, but there's also the relocated banner, the illuminated sign above the door, and a logo on each of the show windows. Perhaps using the space above the storefronts on the side, which looks like in the original photographs is where the signage went, and not having it lit would reduce that a little bit and perhaps not make the storefronts quite as busy. But in general, we're pleased to see this happen.
Okay, Jack Taylor.
Jack Taylor, also of the Drive to Protect the Ladies Mile District. My colleague, Mr. Blackman, has dealt with most of what I was going to say. So I will just confine it to my concerns, perhaps it's a personal matter, about the box sign on the extreme point of the corner pier. That may have been present in 1935, I think the applicant said, but it certainly was not original to the building. 1905 and 1911 photos of that show. And overall, it's a bit of a muchness of signage. Personally, I think the box sign should go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Barbara Zach.
Rosé, Historic Districts Council. In general, HDC finds that while the existing fenestration pattern correlates to the appearance of the historic photos, the proposed intervention is acceptable. However, the plentiful illumination and signage, including built-in light boxes around the perimeter of the display windows, seems to overwhelm the building, especially given that the new tenant will be reusing the existing corner sign and flagpole. The building's architectural contributions to the streetscape are thus diminished in favor of the attention called to its tenant's identity. HDC asks that some of these elements be toned down. Though not part of this proposal, HDC hopes to one day see a proposal for the restoration of the building's original residential building as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other testimony? Okay. Further comment based on what's been said? Yeah.
First of all, Steve, the community board, they recommend approval. Okay. They don't have it or whatever. I have it today. I think Frank had addressed just the building issue, but I think it is important for you all, and I think this was made clear, is how these procedures work. This is basically cabinetry inside, and it's not engaged with the storefront system at all, and it's really intended, as Craig said, to hide the light that would be used to illuminate the displays. That's sort of intended.
Yeah, but the mullions that we're seeing here, we aligned them with the transit club. We looked at a single piece of glass, and it's just cost prohibitive, especially how many days we have to deal with. We looked at a butt glazing, and what we were going to do is we were going to align the butt glazing with the translucent butt above. But what you have to have in the butt glazing is a mullion behind it for structural. So you would actually see this mullion behind the glass, where the butt glazing came together. And we just felt it would look better if it was actually a mullion that aligned with the upper transoms on the interior and exterior.
Why didn't you make them the same dimension?
We could. It just felt like it was going to start to just take away from the window and just obscure your sight lines a little bit. And that's why we did the size that we did.
Okay. Discussion. Thank you. Thanks.
I think it's a really nice project. That's a great improvement to this really impressive, robust building. I think that the transoms are well proportioned, and someone in the testimony said they may not have been equally equal. I think that the decision made to have them align with both the decorative elements in the casting and with the second element of the mullions above is totally appropriate, reasonable. I think that the use of the mullions in the show windows is acceptable and normal, and you see a lot of variation in retail show windows. I think this is respectful of the building, respectful of the district. I think that the modification to the pier adjacent to the residential lobby is fantastic and points in the right direction for when the building does its own work, whenever that may happen, at the residential lobby. I think that the box sign is something we wouldn't approve now, but it's there, and I think that it does not need to be moved. I think if the applicant wished to make it a tad better, it could be centered on the pier instead of at the corner, which is kind of more the norm for blade type signs. And the last thing I would just say is that I would ask that I personally think that the lighting is acceptable. I think that the way it's been screened is sensitive and appropriate and very typical. You usually see much more intrusive stuff at storefronts, and I think it would be very nice. But I would ask that the applicant look at every opportunity possible to remove the sheetrock behind the transom and allow one to see into the store and allow light to come out from the store through those transoms. I was looking at the sections, and it seemed like that would be feasible in several locations unless things are not showing up on the drawings that we don't know about, like mechanical, structural things. So I would say to the applicant, if they could work with staff to try wherever possible to allow for those transoms, which they're spending a lot of money to put back, try to make them live with the building and with their space. That'd be a great thing.
Yeah, I agree with those comments, and I'm okay with the light boxes because I think they're set far enough back. That was the thing that I first had apprehension about with but they're far enough back, and I think they are very elegant from the way it's designed, so I can accept that, and I okay with, I agree with Michael's idea about the transom, if there's any way to open that up, because it's a shame to waste it, the way it is now with sheetrock behind it. And I'm okay with the pile asset. I think it's very sensitive, and I can support it the way it is.
Michael?
I can as well.
All right. Libby?
My only issue is that on the Fifth Avenue facade, I think there really is a proliferation of signage between the banner and the very large letters over the entrance door and the two small window signs and the corner signs. I would look for some kind of reduction there.
I think I'm a minority here, but I'll still say that I was surprised to hear Barnes & Noble, Banana Republic say they couldn't afford the right storefront. The big glass, everybody seems to be going to big glass to display their beautiful products, which I'm wearing today. But nonetheless, I think the great storefronts of this city seem to often make a break with what's right above them. In other words, not aligned with the transom. And somehow that was always such an exciting thing to see because it was so functional. They made the break because they needed to. And somehow that's become visually part of the great storefronts, I think. In any event, it's certainly approvable to have them just aligned with the transom above, but there's something to me even more exciting about what's there now, the off filter, and certainly one big plane of glass would be the most exciting of all. Otherwise, I think everything that's being done is really wonderful. I just will moan the loss of a textbook store where for 23 years I've taught at NYU in the art history department, and this was the place where all my students went to get their books. But that's over now, and it's all online.
Yeah, I find this really approvable and agree with the comments of previous commissioners on most of the issues. My hesitation was originally about the lighting and was uncertain about it. I did think that the light box, that it had been there, so it was okay to have it remain in this case. And I was okay with the signage over the door. I had some concern about the individual windows, but I think I'm persuaded by the treatment and the discussion of exactly how it's been done that it will be not really calling due attention to itself, which was my concern on the windows. And I think in general it's a very desirable change from the existing storefront, and is really going to be an improvement and very suitable for the district.
I agree. Okay. Excuse me. So, I think it's pretty much as. Yeah.
There is some mechanical equipment that requires drop ceilings, but we can work with the applicant to study the partitions in general and try to find a way to increase some transparency of the windows.
And with that, I think Libby may have been the only one who objected to the signage. So, I understand the point, but I think it's that's a good word. Okay, hearing will be closed. Gentlemen, if you would, please. Thank you.
The manner of 105 Fifth Avenue, Ladies Mile, Historic District. A neo-Renaissance style store. Okay, thank you. Store and loft building designed by Robert Maynicke and built in 1901 to 1902. Application is to alter the facade and install new storefront infill and signage, noting that the style, scale, materials, and details of the building are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Ladies Mile Historic District. With regard to the proposed Fifth Avenue storefront entrance, storefront restoration work, and storefront signage, display elements, and lighting, I recommend approval, finding that the removal of the existing storefront infill signage and facade cladding at the Fifth Avenue facade will not eliminate significant historic fabric and will eliminate fabric that detracts from the historic and architectural character of the building. That the existing cast iron storefronts on the West 18th Street facade will be retained in the proposed design. That the installation of a cast iron storefront at the northernmost bay of the Fifth Avenue facade will restore missing architectural details and return the building closer to its historic appearance. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. That the proposed Fifth Avenue storefront entrance, although not the location of a historic storefront entrance, will be harmonious with and complement the historic storefronts. That the display window prosceniums have neutral finishes and are set behind the glass and will not detract from the transparency associated with storefront infill. That the proposed illuminated signage over the storefront entrance and at the reclad historic corner wall-mounted sign is well scaled to the facade and will not overwhelm the facade's historic details. That the proposed modified location of the existing historic flagpole over the new storefront entrance will not overwhelm the facade or cause any damage to significant decorative features of the facade. However, we recommend, let me see now, that the interior partitions be reduced in height or width to allow some measure of transparency. This is behind the transom, between some of the store's interior and storefront display windows and second floor windows. With regard to the proposed facade alterations to the two-story pilaster and lobby entrance at the Fifth Avenue facade, we recommend approval, finding that the building has a history of facade alterations at the Fifth Avenue facade, particularly at the southernmost entrance, that the alteration of the previously modified pilaster, although not matching the historic condition at this location, will closely match typical pilasters at the remainder of the base of the building. That the use of limestone and granite for the pilaster alterations will match the historic building materials at this facade. That the proposed alteration could create conditions that are more favorable to a future matching alteration at the southernmost pilaster to unify the base, which is outside the scope of work of this application. Let me see, that these, let me go to the second page here. Is it on the back? Oh, okay. That the use of polished granite infill in the southernmost bay of the Fifth Avenue facade will match the bay's existing infill material while accommodating alterations to the two-story pilaster, and that this work will not detract from the special character of the Ladies Mile Historic District.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you.